Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sip and Scholar. My name is Doctora Vanessa Mari, and I am here with Doctora Erika Martinez, who is a Fulbright Scholar in residence and joining us from Mexico. I am super excited to have this guest on my podcast, and I know I was kind of MIA, but we're back. And like I mentioned, Dr. Erika Martinez is a Fulbright Scholar in residence. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Erika Martinez Lugo. I was born in Querétaro. Querétaro is a central city, central state in Mexico. And I have three siblings. And I studied a bachelor's degree in modern languages in Universidad Autónoma de Querétaro. And then in 1995, 1996, I got a grant from Fulbright as well as a teacher assistant, and I went to teach for a whole school year, academic year, at Hardwick College in Oneonta, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got married in 1998, and in 1999 I moved to Baja California, Mexicali specifically, and in less than a week, I was already bored because I didn't know anybody, and the weather is so extreme, so hot, and so I wanted to go back, but I couldn't. So I started looking for a job, and I found a job at Universidad Autónoma de Baja California. I was really fortunate because I arrived July the 1st, 1999, and by August, I was already hired to teach. In the language center and in the bachelor program they offer as language teaching trainers. And in 2010, I finished my master's in administration and education at Universidad Autónoma de Baja California. And that same year, I had another grant from Fulbright for English language teachers, Mexican English language teachers. And it was just a whole month in Arkansas.
Okay.
That was a really good experience. And then I got my PH in linguistics, also in Universidad Autónoma de Querétaro. And I have been working for Universidad Autónoma de Baja California for almost 25 years now.
Awesome.
I know, 25 years. I am a member of the National Research System in Mexico. And I am very happy now as a scholar in residence at Nevada State University.
We're super happy to have you.
Thank you.
Well, cheers to that.
Sure.
We are drinking a little bit of wine today. Very exciting. It's the best way to start the morning. It's 7 a.m. No, I'm kidding. It's not. Just kidding. So you mentioned quite a few different Fulbright programs, right? And one thing that I think a lot of our listeners would be interested in is maybe knowing a little bit more about what a Fulbright Scholar in residence is. Because one of the amazing things about Fulbright is that they have so many different types of awards, right? And sometimes they're used interchangeably. But this Fulbright Scholar in Residence specifically is an award given to international scholars to come to the United States and work at a host institution. What are some other things that you would say makes Fulbright Scholar in Residence a unique program?
One of the key elements for me in each of the three programs that I have been granted by Fulbright, but this one in particular is, for me, it was very important to keep my salary and my position at my university. So that was one key element for me. The other very important element for me was the program. I wanted to do something that I could really do something about. I've been getting information from Fulbright and the Fulbright programs and Scholar in Residence in particular, but they were talks. You were to teach about history of Mexico, which I love, but more towards politics and economy, and that is not something I could do. And but basically those were key elements for me, that I could keep my job in Mexico and that I could keep my salary and my benefits as long as I was doing the Fulbright Scholar in Residence. And then it had the other thing for me was it had to be something that really motivated me to leave my family, my daughter, my dogs, and
Yeah.
everything.
And I think one important thing to know too about the Fulbright Scholar in Residence is that if you are an international scholar, you can contact universities to see if they might have, be able to do a Fulbright Scholar in Residence there. But the application per se comes from the university. So in my case, I remember I learned about this program, and I work at Nevada State University in Henderson, Nevada. And I looked at the application. I worked on the application alongside with my grants office. And you do have options. So, for example, as the person that's going to host a scholar, you get to choose the where the scholar comes from or invite a specific scholar. In my case, I remember on the application, I said I would like a scholar from Mexico that has a background in bilingual education because that's the part in the School of Education that we really needed someone to work with, right? I also requested, you could request up to 10 months or 5 months. And I did the application for 5 months. I should have done the 10 months. I should have. But in my mind, I remember thinking, oh, it's going to be harder to find someone that can commit for 10 months. And that was the rationale I used for choosing the 5 months. And now I regret it because I wish Erika was here full time. But that's just a little bit of the background about what the program is. If you are an institution or someone that would like to bring in a Fulbright Scholar in Residence and you know someone that you would like to host, that can also be arranged.
And I think it is important also to mention that you can bring your family. In my case, it didn't because my student is a med student and she's so dedicated, and she said, "Are there classes that I could take in Nevada State University?" And I said no, but I mean the experience, and she's so determined. But I know other scholars who are here in the States with their families.
Yeah. And what would you say are some of the sort of like the benefits that you get, right? Because Fulbright is giving you a stipend alongside with what the university will normally pay for the courses, right? Because as a scholar in residence, you can teach up to 2 courses, and then you also have time to do research. So what would you say outside of the monetary compensation what are other things that Fulbright offers that makes it like a good experience?
Well, the possibility to do research, which is very important in Mexican institutions, higher education, because you have to constantly be researching and presenting and writing papers. So something that I was very interested in when I read the application, it was a possibility to work with a community. So that was something that I was very interested in, and it has been very rewarding for me because I have had the possibility to observe teachers teaching in bilingual programs in Nevada, in Las Vegas in particular. And so along with the training of the teachers, I have had the possibility to see teachers with experience teaching in bilingual programs and learning from their very own experience. And in elementary school, in junior high school, and high school, so that was also very interesting for me, very enriching. I participated in the pipe project.
Oh, the Teacher Academy Pipeline Project.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was also very a very good experience for me because I understood better the education system in the United States, and I am surprised about how expensive it is. But also, especially with this last week that I have been interviewing students, how if they look for the grants, they can actually finish college without a debt. Because I was very concerned about that. I was really concerned about that, thinking of how much I pay for example, for my daughter. Again, no? So, and then interacting with other professors and learning about what they do, that was also very interesting and very, very enriching experience for me.
That's good. I'm so happy to hear that. I think, as from the institution side, one of the most important things when you're hosting a scholar is to not only be welcoming, but also to connect with the community, connect with the students, right? And looking for ways to go outside of just teaching the two classes, right? It's been very collaborative. I think you've done a great job connecting with so many of our teachers, and our students absolutely love you, and it
Thank you.
really speaks to the work that you've done, right?
Thank you.
And I think also from conversations I've had with other scholars, it the Fulbright Scholar in residence gives you the opportunity to bring in someone externally, right? Especially if you're working at a smaller university that might not have the capacity to host international scholars. Fulbright really gives you like the leg and the tools for you to be able to do those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I've had people ask me, well, my university can't afford it, right? But then we talk about, well, a Fulbright actually covers a lot of the
A lot.
expenses,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Or what are some experiences that my students can have within the international landscape? Again, bringing in a Fulbright Scholar in residence is a really great way to give students opportunities to connect with people from other countries, from other communities, and to learn from a different point of view, which I think is something that you really brought because in our case, at Nevada State University, we have our bilingual program, which is very new. And I am currently the only full-time faculty that teaches there. And that's why I was like, we really need to bring someone else that can teach from a diverse perspective what bilingual education looks like in other countries.
Yeah, and that's one of the main points that I have been discussing with them. Because I think that the United States truly lives bilingualism or multilingualism for that matter. Versus Mexico, we do have bilingual, we have intercultural bilingual programs for original languages. Unfortunately, those programs do not have that high prestige because the languages itself don't have a high prestige. So the way people see bilingualism in Mexico is more like you speak prestigious language. So you speak your mother tongue Spanish, and then you speak English, French, German, and so on and so forth. So, for example, I'm a foreign language teacher trainer, and most of our graduates, or our alumni, they teach English as a foreign language, French, German, Italian as a foreign language, and they are very successful. But it also has this component of being communicatively competent for social matters mainly, and then they are trained to teach foreign language for specific purposes. So if engineers ask them for specific, for engineers, then they would teach Italian for engineers, or English for medical sciences. But it's very different. It's very different now. Bilingual education, where they learn content at elementary school, junior high school, it's only in private institutions. And the perspective is more much of no Spanish is allowed. All right, and that is something that is hard for me to understand because even when I was learning English for communicative purposes, I remember having my notes in Spanish. So and so that's something that I am taking. Some of the takeaways that I have from what I have learned here is that you can actually, and I want to communicate that. I want to teach. I want to train my teachers, my future teachers, on that. It is possible. I think it's going to be hard with the private institutions because one thing that they sell to the parents is we're gonna be able to help your children be bilingual because we don't allow them to speak Spanish in the premises.
Oh yeah.
Not in the premises. They have the Spanish patrol. They have the Spanish police, where they write reports, or they have a penalty jar where they have 5 pesos or whatever for saying words in Spanish, even if they are in recess, for example.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a little difficult, I guess. But that's why it's important. It was very important for me to see it in action.
That is so interesting. That is super interesting. I remember being and this was many years ago, right? But I do remember when I was learning English in Puerto Rico, then definitely having that culture of like the English, in the English classroom, you do not use any other language, right? It is, and it's kind of hard as scholars now looking at that, right? And seeing the differences. Okay, so one question that I have for you. What do you think are some challenges from working as a Fulbright Scholar in residence, or challenges that maybe you've heard other people that might have had when they became a scholar in residence?
Well, before that, I want to add two trips that I have had that I never expected to have. But Fulbright took me to Washington, D.C. for the Scholar in Residence seminar, which allowed me to meet other scholars who are in the United States doing, participating in different programs. So, and I got an allergic reaction there.
Oh, yeah.
So that was very uncomfortable because I had
like a rash.
yes,
Yeah.
but very intense. So, but they were very nice, and they took me to the doctor, and so that was one thing that I think is very different from the medical services we have, for example, in Mexico. For me, it's just as easier as go to the doctor and that's it. But the insurance,
Yeah.
it's very difficult, or it was very difficult for me to understand. And I didn't want to go to the doctor because in one of the sessions they were talking about how difficult it is, or it was, or it had been for them to understand the insurance system in the United States.
Yeah. Oh, it was so difficult for me too when I first moved here. It's a challenge, yes.
So, but I mean, that was something. But everything I learned there and the people I met, very, very, I think, very educated people in their fields, in their areas, bringing a lot of their knowledge and experience to universities in the United States, for example. And then Nevada State took me to NAVE in New Orleans to this national conference on bilingual education. That was amazing.
We had the best time.
We did, and I learned a lot. And it was even greater because some students were along with us, and just listening to them, how excited they were about just traveling, and then what they were listening, and how engaged and how fascinated they were that they were able to connect what they had been studying in the program with what they were listening. It was so fascinating, so fascinating, so enriching. And that also helped me connect even more, or stronger with the students. Because the interesting thing is that my first course was online.
Oh, yes, yes.
So I started courses online. I was like, oh, I wanted to see the students. I wanted to interact with them. And the second course that I am teaching, or that I am about to finish teaching, that was, in person to person. But I don't even understand why, but I really had a lot of stronger connection with my online class. That's something new. That was something I was not expecting.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah.
For me too. So, okay, what was the question? Now
Oh,
what was the question? Sorry.
So what would you say are some of the maybe challenges that a Fulbright Scholar in resident might have once they come to the U.S.? You mentioned insurance, right? Learning about insurance. I also think, there's also always going to be an acclimation process, especially if you're moving to a city that's very different from where you used to live, right? Thankfully, you had been to Vegas before. So you knew about this. Our campus was new to you, but you still knew about the city. And you also have a partner that lives here,
Right.
which makes it a little bit easier to kind of been here and acclimate, right? But for some other scholars, it might be a little harder if you are at a institution that you don't know anyone at all, right? Or a city or even the country. It's completely new for you. So that acculturation process, and one thing that as the host, right, we want to make sure that we do, right, is to address any of those concerns. Thankfully, there were very few with us working together, right? We got along very well immediately. But I do think it is important for you to know as a future scholar in residence that if you do apply for the program and you're accepted, that you have the host institution plus the Fulbright office there to assist you with any of the issues that you might have. Um, we joke around because Fulbright is so involved that it's a little intense, but it's good.
Yes.
It's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're always checking up on you. They're always making sure that you are having a really good experience because you're a host in our country, right? And the institution. But aside of those things that we've talked about, do you think there might be any challenges when coming here or any?
Yeah, something that I kept hearing from others is transportation because in my case I was able to bring my car, but just because in Mexico I live in a border city and I was used to driving to Las Vegas, so I asked for that and it was granted. So for some of the professor is you had to live close to campus
Yeah.
so that you can walk.
Yeah.
Or depending, because every institution, some institutions, I guess, grant dorms for some professors. Yeah. So depending on that, like if you have your family, maybe you want to have your own,
Your own
place,
vehicle,
but you also need a vehicle, especially if you have to take the children to school. So I think I heard those challenges that I didn't have.
I think that is such a good point because depending on the city that you're in, you might have a great public transportation or not the best. And where we are in Henderson and Las Vegas area, there's sections with great public transportation, but in our university that's bordering Boulder City and Henderson, having a car honestly is a must-have. And I remember when you mentioned you were coming, I was like, do your best to try to bring your car because otherwise there was going to be that challenge of going to places. You could live close to campus, but our campus doesn't have a lot of things walking distance. So that might be another thing too. If you're more on a suburban campus and there's not a lot to do walking distance, and how do you figure out how to get to the supermarket, how to get those basic needs met?
I wouldn't have been able to go to observe the classes that I have been observing. I don't think I would have been able to. And also when I participated reading books voluntarily to children. So
No, that's true. Because one of the things that she was able to do, you went to like schools that might have been 40 minutes from campus. If you were to take a bus, it would have taken you 2 hours or more, right? Versus having the flexibility to get in your car and go to all these places. That's a really good point. Yeah. So, the last question that I have for you, what would you say are some recommendations that you would give to other international scholars that are looking to get a Fulbright Scholar in residence?
I think you have to apply.
But does the call come out? How does the call come out? I know the hosting side, but I don't know how, for example, you found out about it.
I found out because since I'm already an alumni from Fulbright, I am enrolled, and so I get emails from them.
Okay.
But also, I follow them in Facebook.
Oh, yes.
And
Okay.
you can get information there also.
So do you follow the Fulbright office in Mexico or do you follow the Fulbright?
I follow both.
Both. Okay.
Both.
So every country should have a Facebook page dedicated to their Fulbright country.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and Comexus, because I feel Comexus Fulbright as well. I also follow them, and in Instagram as well, because I know there's also there. And then I get an alumni sort of magazine.
Okay.
Where you learn about alumni doing things. And so that's how I learned about the program. And I do remember when I had been wanting to apply like for 2 years. But I was like, okay, should I do it in my sabbatical? Should I apply for it now? What should I do? And as I said, I read the programs where there were a lot of opportunities to teach, but more about politics and economics. And when I saw this one, I saw kind of see my name and my last name in here. I remember even reading that to a group of students, graduate students, and I said, what do you think? Who do you think should apply? And they say, you. I said, do you think it has my name and your last name too? So, that also, gave me that push. The process, that was something because I was working for the university, so I had to report to the university where everything, my work, usual work I was doing. But I also had to report to Comexus, and then I was getting emails from IIE, and very few from Nevada, but still I wanted to be in touch. And then it's a little long because you have, the papers to complete, your medical also background check and all check, and then the university because you need the permission, the document where my home institution, my university in Mexico, that it's okay with me being here and me still getting my benefits there. That was also important. And also the call said that the due date was going to be in June, I think, or July 6th. And suddenly they say, we apologize, we will have to move it, and it's going to close on March the 3rd.
Really?
Uh-huh.
What?
Yeah,
Oh my
I
God!
never told you this.
That's a huge move.
And I was like, when I first saw it, I said, okay, I'm going to wait until June because at the time we were having a change of principal or director in Facultad de Idiomas and also president of the university. So I said, I'm going to wait, and it's better because then I will have the new director, signing my permission, and then also the new president. So when I saw that, I said, okay. Then I had to apply.
Yeah.
But it was really good too because I had my interviews. That was a very stressful situation.
With the Fulbright office in Mexico?
With the Fulbright,
okay.
yeah, with Comexus. And then they told me, okay, we think you're the candidate. We're gonna send your name if you are still interested, and if so, they might want to interview you. And that's when you contacted me and said, okay, we can have the interview via Zoom, blah, blah, blah. But that week was my week off, was my spring break. So I say, I'm actually planning on going to Las Vegas that week. Would you like to have it in person? And I think that also made a difference because I was able to drive to the institution, which is beautiful, and then meet you in person. And Shatraya, and I don't remember the name of who was the dean at the time.
Dennis,
Yeah, he was and so you three interviewed me in person. Right.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. And one thing that I do want to note with mostly everything that comes with Fulbright, when you apply for something, it's not until a year later. Because I remember we interviewed you, but you didn't come until a year later. So it took a while, honestly, in total, from the moment I submitted the application and you entered the university, over a year had passed. Right? It was a long time.
Yes, because you interviewed me in what was spring break for me. That must have been March or something. Yeah. But I had already gone through a lot of things of Mexico. And then my first day in Nevada was this year, in January 9th, that I showed up. And my first day of classes was January 15 or 16.
And I submitted that application just for all the timeline that y'all are going to have, right? I submitted that application in, I want to say it was like May. And then I find out around October that it was granted. And then you came in March. And then
I started in January.
You started in January of the year. So it was a long process. However, I'm just putting it out there because if you're someone that you're thinking, oh, I want a Fulbright Scholar to come in 2 months, that's not going to happen. More like in a year and a half.
Yes.
And it might be, honestly, like another thing that extended mine specifically is that I asked for a spring startup date, and it could have been fall. So that's why, it could have been 6 months earlier, but I had asked for spring. So that was also part of the reason why it took so long, which usually would just be about a year.
But I think it's also so that you also make sure that you have everything in order in your home country and everything, and then you can come.
So moving to a whole new place, you know how it is. You have to find someone to take care of your dogs, your house, your little ones, or bring them with you and coordinate all of that. And as the institution, we have to make sure that you have an office. We have course offerings available to you. We're able to have a discussion about what other funds we might be able to provide outside of just the funds for teaching. So in our case, we had we we flew you to Nabe and any
Yeah.
other materials that you wanted. We were able to provide those things. So, and that also comes with the application. And you should be able to write on the application how much, as a host, you're willing to put. However, Fulbright makes it very clear that as a host institution, if you do not have extra funds, that shouldn't deter you from applying for it. Because what Fulbright wants to ensure is that all institutions get a chance to hold a Fulbright Scholar in residence, not only the big universities
Prestige.
with the
or-
prestige
yeah.
and all the money to be able to bring someone, right? We really want universities that are smaller, like ours. Ours is a smaller university, or universities that are starting to be able to also take advantage of the program.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But overall, it has been a wonderful experience. I would say, granted the honor of giving the pinning speech. That I wasn't sure exactly what it was like because it's not something that I had heard about before.
It's something that we do in the School of Education, and it is unique to some programs. Not every university does it, but for us at Nevada State University, we hold a pinning ceremony for our students that are graduating, where we present them with a pin. Now that they're becoming teachers, and it's a beautiful ceremony where everyone gets a chance to get their pin and give thanks to family and their support
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, that was a very intense and beautiful experience that I had. Very emotional, and it was just so beautiful because the students in Nevada State University are wonderful. I just wonderful, so committed, so committed to what they are doing, and aware. They are aware. Okay, yes, teaching is a hard profession because it is hard and it's not necessarily well paid, but they are still, so convinced that they want to be teachers, and that is so amazing. I think that one of the purposes of me being here is that they should see teaching as a career, and they would love it. But I think they gave me even more energy to what I
Yeah.
do in
Yeah.
in Mexico. So I'm very thankful for this opportunity, and I'm very lucky.
No, we're very lucky. I think we are the lucky ones because we ended up with you. You've been amazing. Our students absolutely love you. And I know for a fact that even though you're here for 4 months, we're going to be in contact for a lifetime.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
look at
think
us. So thank you, everyone. I hope that you are either excited to apply to as a host institution to get a Fulbright Scholar in residence, or you yourself as a scholar in an international country, keep an eye out for these opportunities because we are so happy and absolutely blessed to have you all here. So thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.